It's midday right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to Lunchtime Politics. I'm Jeffrey Uzanga. Let's begin with the headlines. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, recognizes the David Mark-led Action Democratic Congress, ADC, after periods of leadership contention and controversy. The nation's electoral umpire raises concern over what it describes as premature campaigns ahead of 2027 general elections, calls for electoral reforms. And Nigeria's secret police, the DSS, arraigns commanders of proscribed terrorist organization Ansaru. Welcome to your all-access pass. So big things happen in the polity as we binge through the very big highlights on the program. The Department of State Services is where we start off from, where it has arraigned two commanders of Ansaru, a proscribed terrorist organization. In a 32-count charge filed before the Federal High Court in Abuja, the suspects Mahmoud Usman and Abubakar Abba are alleged to have committed acts of terrorism sometime in 2022 by attacking Wawa Cantonment of the Nigerian Army in Kenji, New Busa, Borogu local government area of Niger State, which resulted in mass casualties. They are also alleged to have received training in weapons handling and fabrication of improvised explosive devices, that's IEDs, from various terrorist camps. In a separate charge, the DSS equally arraigned a suspected gun runner, Huzaifa Aruna, on charges of allegedly transporting 7 M16 assault rifles from Dogo village in Barikin Ladi, local government area Plateau, to one Wakili Julde in Wase, local government area also in Plateau State. The suspects have been arraigned before Justice Emeka Mwite. And the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has recognized the David Mark-led leadership of the African Democratic Congress. It posted the recognition on the official website of INEC, affirming that David Mark-led executives as the duly constituted leadership of the ADC. The commission recognizes David Mark as the national chairman, Mr. Rauf Aregbesola as the national secretary, and Dr. Ibrahim Mahmoud Imani as the national treasurer of the ADC. Other principal officers are Akibo Dalhato as national financial secretary and Professor Osehemen Osumbo as a national legal advisor. The recent internal crisis in the party had made the electoral umpire withhold its recognition of David Mark-led National Working Committee of the ADC. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has raised concerns, and serious ones, about what it calls premature electioneering campaigns among the political class and their supporters, calling for urgent reforms to address the trend. Speaking at a conference organized by the Electoral Institute in Abuja, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, gave this and talked about the undermining of governance, distortion of fair competition, and eroding of public trust in the electoral process. He, however, states that the existing electoral laws do not give the Commission the powers to sanction those who reach or breach the laws guiding political campaigns.
Around the country, we have seen outdoor advertising, media campaigns, and even rallies promoting various political parties and candidates. These actions and activities undermine the Commission's ability to track campaign finance limits as politicians, prospective candidates, and third-party agents expend large amounts of money that cannot be effectively monitored before the official commencement of campaigns. Sections 94(2) and 3 of the Electoral Act imposes sanctions, albeit mild, a maximum amount of 500,000 naira on conviction on any political party or a person acting on its behalf who engages in campaign 24 hours before polling day. However, there is no sanction whatsoever in respect of breaches for campaigns earlier than 150 days. And here lies the challenge for the Commission in dealing with early campaign by parties, prospective candidates, and their supporters. The seeming inability of the Commission and other regulatory agencies to deal with the menace within the ambit of the existing legal framework calls for deep reflection.
Mahmoud Yakubu talking about the very concerning issue when it has to do with campaigns ahead of any election. So, of course, you know, 24 hours before election day, there cannot be any form of publicity or campaign. But he's saying the law is silent, or there's no legislation prohibiting all of this, what they consider premature campaigns. So let me bring in a politician who also weighing on this issue as well as others. Dachung Bagos joins us from our Abuja studios. He's a former member of the House of Representatives from Plateau State. Honorable Bagos, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you, Geoffrey. Afternoon, Nigerians.
So, Honorable Bagos, I want to ask this in a very funny way. INEC is saying you politicians are stressing them that the law is quite clear on how, if you win an election, spend the 3 years of that election doing what you promised the people to do. But they've seen that as soon as elections are won, max 1 year, campaign is in full gear, even though they don't use the word vote. What do you make of the concern raised by INEC? Because it looks like politicians are stressing the electoral umpire.
Geoffrey, let me start from the word they use premature campaign. And if you see campaigns going on very early like this, and you call it premature, which means whatsoever the people will have on ground is premature. Any act of campaign is a desire for good governance. And because people have started canvassing for support for their various candidates because they desire good governance. And that is because democracy is all about good governance. And I believe if Nigerians have gotten what they truly and they really have yearned for, they will be concentrating, applauding politicians that are in office. And so if Nigerians and various supporters are not getting what it is, definitely the next thing is to look for which is the next election instead of looking at how to build the next generation. So these are issues that are already on ground, that Nigerians are yearning for good governance. So what you see, the hit you see that Nigerians are generating all around the country is not because people don't know the law. It's not because that the law is not there. It's because people are yearning for good governance. People are yearning for a desired change to see that, look, they can't wait for 2027. And this is a sign already that 2027 is going to be a year for Nigerians, and only for Nigerians, not for political parties or not for any other gimmicks, but for Nigerians. So for me, INEC should take this premature, so-called premature campaign in court to know that Nigerians can't wait for 2027, and what Nigerians really need for them, it's for them to start rolling out how they can have credible elections towards 2027. What are those reforms that the Electoral Act, the amendment that's supposed to take place in the Amendment Act in 2020? That's what Nigerians want to hear from INEC. As it is for now, how are they pushing for the amendment to see that RF is now part of the Electoral Act, that will now have real-time election result during elections, that will now make sure that no hitch or glitch on the server, when it comes to presidential elections or any of the elections. That's what Nigerians want to hear from INEC, to build the confidence of Nigerians that, look, we will give you credible elections. But if it's complaining about premature elections, well, as much as it's a challenge to INEC, it should be part of the Electoral Act amendment that it should be able to put it into the law, because Section 94 from 1 to 3 clearly talked about what you can seek for, you can do your consultations and whatsoever, but make sure that you don't put vote and whatever position or whatever you're looking at. And that's why you see a lot of issues and a lot of billboards all around. And even in the FCT, that you can have it everywhere. Today you have the billboards of the president everywhere, every look and cranny of the FCT. So if INEC has anything, or you have to use the law against politicians, I think they already have one, which
Dachung,
is the billboards of the president littered all around in Abuja here.
Yeah, if I may comment, that's what he's saying, that they are technically incapacitated by the extant law to be able to sanction people who are doing this, including the president, the APC, the PDP, everybody who is doing it. You know, the president's on his proliferation in Abuja because, of course, the president, and that's the ruling party. Perhaps if it was the PDP as well, would have seen that kind of situation. So there's enough blame to go around. But we're talking about abiding by the rule of law. As simple as these things are, there's desperation on all sides. The APC wants to stay in power. The other parties want to kick them out of power. But how do we, in managing our desperation, ensure that we stay within the ambit of the law and the rule of law? Because if we can abide by these simple ones, not to talk of every other thing we're trying to deal with.
Yeah, it's to add to the amendment. If there's lacuna in the Electoral Act, it's for INEC to still seek for amendment and to forward to the National Assembly that, look, amend this aspect because of the campaign, look into this law. But for me, everything is already there in the Electoral Act, especially Section 94(2). It talks about don't put vote. But today, most of the billboards, even the billboards of the president, you have vote. How can INEC today show us a caution letter that they have written to the political parties, the caution letter that they have written to even the aspirants, starting with the president, that, look, we have written the president to caution him on his billboards around town that talks about vote. And the Electoral Act is all about, it's not talking about just 24 hours to campaign. It talks about before the stipulated 90 days to campaign. So already we have billboards of the president and governors and others that is talking about vote. It's not just talking about awareness. It's not just talking about town hall meetings. It's talking about specific. Already there is a contravention to the Electoral Act. Already, INEC, what are they doing in those contraventions that already most of these billboards are carrying vote, which is part of the law in the Electoral Act. So let them use what they already have that is part of the law. Then we'll now know that they are incapacitated in this area to seek for the amendment. But they are not using any section of any section of the Electoral Act in Section 94. They're not using any. So how can they even be crying foul when they are not even using the independence they have? So I don't know how they are crying on this. And even we have the National Orientation Agency, who's supposed to carry out these messages across the advertising. Is it the Registration Council of the Advertising Agencies of Nigeria? They are supposed to be the people that INEC is interfacing with, not even the politicians, because they are supposed to tell them, look, any information you are putting in any billboard, you're supposed to screen it, supposed to make sure that it does not carry the word vote, does not carry the political party, and so on and so forth. But it can carry the sensitization of the candidate or the person in office or any other thing, but not canvassing for votes at this particular moment. So there are statements today that INEC should go back to the drawing board and look at the law as it is.
You know, I'm just looking at the law, and I see that INEC can really go around this if they want to act properly. But I'm going to use this to dovetail into my next question before we go to other issues. So, Section 94, as you clearly stated, says that for the purpose of this act, the period of campaigning in public by every political party shall commence 150 days before the polling day and end 24 hours prior to that day. So I think the law is very clear. I don't think INEC is incapacitated. Whether it's the issue of them having power to litigate is a question I do not know. But that leads me, in responding to what I just read for the purpose of the audience, does this further show the weakness of the institutions we have? INEC here being the case study, given this simple law that is being handled this way.
Every law needed to drive any institution in this country is available, has been enacted by the National Assembly and has been amended severally by the National Assembly. Yes, weak institution to be able to have the political will to drive what the law says. But today, if INEC itself knows very well that today they want to start sanctioning, you will see calls coming left, right, center. This is a member of our political party. This is a member of our religious group. This is a member of our tribal lineage or whatsoever. That will start coming into play. Lineage or whatsoever. That will start coming into play. But they can execute law that will only lacuna, and I can say that they have.
Oh dear, my apologies, Honorable Dachung. Apparently the network seems to be disturbing your flow of thoughts, but I wanted to move from there to sort of other part of the conversation, and that leads us to the road to 2027. But I want to also talk about, if you can hear me clearly and if the network allows, let's talk about the PDP, the People's Democratic Party. Maybe you can land on your thought, then answer the question because of time. There seems to be headway now because the issue of National Secretary has been resolved, but there is this back and forth yet again as to some groups led by Nyesom Wike, I think they call themselves the PDP, concerned PDP stakeholders, making demands on the party and what they will consider, if those demands are not met, they don't think that the National Convention in November, I think, in Ibadan, will be valid. The argument is that they, led by Nyesom Wike, will be working for the president, but they are giving a call to the PDP. He's still a member and a very phenomenal, strong member of the PDP. How does the party want to walk around these fine lines?
Yeah, well, Geoffrey, in as much as I did not get your comment very well because of the network, but from what I picked, I think all of us as a people, and even with our leaders, and including even our respected the FCT minister, who has been a member of the party, that, look, it's time for us to really come to the table and give Nigerians credibility. Credibility in terms of, if truly we are PDP, we should be able to start articulating the opposition. What are those points? Where are the failures of the ruling party or the ruling administration? Those are areas that we need to start concentrating on. But the way it looks, and for me, the way it looks as a PDP member, it's discouraging in the sense that we are driving into a one-party state. Discouraging that we are not even having the opposition from outside. The opposition is coming from inside. The opposition is coming from party members itself. So it's weakening, and not just weakening, but sickening to Nigerians that they expect us to see us at this point in time, 2 years down to elections, that we are already articulating the weaknesses of the present administration. How can we be able to convince Nigerians on how we want to address the weaknesses of the present administration? This is a worldwide system in politicking, that opposition looks at the weakness of of the ruling administration. So for me, those are issues that we need to start articulating on. Those are issues that I expect the FCT minister should articulate on to be able to guide the PDP members. But when we start looking at the failures and opposition within us, we will never get it, and it will look as if we are all driving into a one-party state. But Nigerians lose credibility. We owe Nigerians the duty of making sure that we are selfless, making sure that we look at country and God first in all that we are doing. So this is an appeal to even our PDP leaders that we, the younger generation, we are looking at them. This wasn't what Chief Solomon Lar and the G34 started in 1999 for us to be where we are today. So if truly we want to look at this, let's look at Nigeria, let's look at the suffering, let's look at what is going on today in this country, let's look at high cost of livelihood, the inflation and so on and so forth. But sincerely, what is happening with the opposition parties is looking as if we're driving into a one-party state, and Nigerians are not happy. It's not just because I'm a PDP member. I'm a Nigerian first before becoming a PDP member. But to be psychophantic on this issue, I don't think I owe the duty of my children and my supporters that, look, we need to do the right thing at this very particular moment. So my call is an appeal to the FCT minister, an appeal to our PDP leaders that truly we have a duty to give Nigerians credibility.
Yeah, we've been waiting for that credible opposition so that we, the journalists, are not at the front line and looked at as enemies of the state. Because right now what is happening is it looks like the PDP has what I would consider formidable resident opposition within its own political party.
Yeah, exactly. That's what is happening. And even to the media, that's your work, because the media, you need to demand for transparency, then Nigerians will get accountability.
You know, Mr. Dachung, there's the way it works. My apology, the way it works is that the front line, in fact, there are 4 layers before it even gets to us. There are like 3 layers. There's a National Assembly that should check the executive. That's one layer. Then there's the opposition political parties that should check, the ruling party. And then there's the civil society. And then there's the media. So when all of this is not in good place, it's not healthy for democracy. But before I let you go, yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, the democracy in Nigeria is being driven by religion, tribalism, and again, because respect. Because if this person is the person that I respect and my religion says that I must give, so to come out and start opposing according to good governance will look as if, this person is disrespecting his tribal lineage. And that's why today, if you see a northerner comes out, he's a head, and all the northern lineage collapse, that this is our own. If the southerner comes out, and everybody will collapse. But what are those key issues for governance? Those are issues that we need to start looking at. It's not about religion, it's not about tribalism, it's not about nepotism and so on. The true issues of governance, we owe Nigerians that duty. Unless we separate these two, in governance and in democracy, then we will start getting it right.
All right, Honorable Dachung, before I let you go, let's talk about this controversial tax, 5% tax on fuel that a lot of people have talked about. What's your take? I know the government has said there's a provision in the law, but that doesn't mean it will be implemented from January the 1st. It's just there. It's not even from this administration. 2007, FEMA was, I think, established also. Part of the funding of FEMA is a 5%, and of course, that was because Nigeria was paying subsidy. But people are saying, now subsidy is gone. Just take that thing out of the books. We don't want to see it. But government is saying, subsidy may not be enough. It's a practice around the world. What do you make of this in about 2 minutes? Because they say they'll consult before they do any implementation.
Geoffrey, this is a very long discussion because, first of all, what has happened to the removal of fuel subsidy? Where is the funds from the fuel subsidy that has been going on all? And now again, you still want to add additional 5% tax on the fuel. And again, the 5% tax is like government, it's making itself more comfortable and again putting and adding more burden to Nigerians. Because as a marketer, as a businessman, if you add 5% tax on what I'm supposed to sell, the burden will go back to the consumer. And the consumer of fuel and diesel in Nigeria is ordinary Nigerians. Those that are moving goods from point A to point B, they will bear the burden. Government is not bearing any burden. You have removed fuel subsidy. So why again additional 5% tax on fuel subsidy? So you are still adding more burden to ordinary Nigerians. I expect that whatsoever, if you want to still call the 5% tax as another subsidy to fuel, well, let it be. But already the burden that Nigerians are going, adding 5% tax to, it's even more and even worse than even the fuel subsidy that has been removed. You are now, the fuel subsidy that was earlier on, you are claiming that the fuel subsidy was going to some cabals. Now, the fuel subsidy have gone, then the 5% tax is now going back to government cabals, not even to business people that are going out. So that's the way I see it, that another 5% burden you are still taking from Nigerians back to government again, instead of even the subsidy that we were supposed to have paid earlier, that you have removed, that burden has not. So it's like a double burden, or a donkey. When a donkey gave birth, is now thanking God that it has given birth, reducing the load on the donkey to the child that it has given birth. So ordinarily that 5% tax is still going back to Nigerians. So government, the economic team should really look into this issue very well, because I don't know how Nigerians or how Nigeria will be economically again with that 5% tax.
Well, Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians have been rejecting it, and our government has been giving their own explainers as to how it works. Well, we must thank you. And we must commend the governor of the government, or let's call it is it PLASEC now, the Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission. I learned that the timetable for local government election for next year, September, is already out this year. That's how it's supposed to be, not this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 1 year before. So
1 year.
The next election in Plateau State is, yes, that's what the law says.
That's what the law says.
The governor of Plateau State is a lawyer, and he knows how to keep to the law, and the law states stipulates. So they have brought out the timetable. Election is first year. Yeah. All right. So we are waiting for INEC to see how independent as well, not to complain about pre-election campaign. Let's see what INEC is doing to address the issue of beavers, RF, to make sure that this is part of the law, because 2027, Nigerians will not take it. Geoffrey, I'm out of National Assembly as a result of illegality. So these are issues that we expect. Yes, so these are issues the discussions that should be
out of the National Assembly and state assemblies.
Yes, so these are issues that should be on the front burner, not pre-election campaign that people are yearning for good governance.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Honorable Dachung. There's a lot to unpack, as always. Remember, we have you. And we needed to commend PLASEC for doing the right thing, because there are states, even Lagos, that broke the law. So if there are people that are doing the right thing, we'll commend them. All right, thank you, Honorable Dachung Bagos, former member of the House of Representatives, joining us from our Abuja studio. But thank you. And that's it on the program. Thank you for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. You've been served for Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.